I'm Lindsay Barr, co-founder and CSO of DraughtLab and adjunct sensory professor for the Master Brewers program at UC Davis. And here is your craft beer and brewing tip of the week. When we're using sensory for hop evaluation or malt evaluation, there are a few standard methods that are commonly used. One is the hop grind method, and the other is the hot steep method. These are just methods to extract the flavor and aromas from your raw materials. The hop grind method is really easy. All you would need to do is take your 3 hop samples, and these are pellets, but you would just grind them up. And what you're doing with that is you're just kind of breaking them up and releasing some of the oils that you might not be able to get in just the pellet form. So you're gonna grind it into a powder, and then you're gonna dump that powder into a condiment cup. You're gonna cap the condiment cup, and then you can smell that sample in this condiment cup. It's really nice, very peachy. So you would do that with all of your samples, and that's one way that you can evaluate the aroma of hops in a more reliable way than just kind of breaking up the hop pellet. There's also a hop tea method that you can do, which is just extracting the hop pellets using warm water. This is a little bit more of a finicky method, so I personally prefer the grind method because there are less variables. The temperature of the water is a little bit different, or the alkalinity of the water is a little bit different. You're gonna get a different result. So this is really an easy way of getting a relatively repeatable result by just grinding the hops. The hot steep method for malt is also really a fun one. It's a little bit more complex, but you're basically gonna grind up the malt, you're going to extract it with warm water, and you're going to filter it and taste it from there. What's great about the hot steep method is it integrates a larger volume of kernels than you would just get in a quick chew. And it's not quite as fatiguing as a chew, and it gives you a more homogeneous sample to taste from. So that's the hot steep method, also a really powerful method. The extracted liquid is relatively low Plato, so it's not all that sweet, it's not all that fatiguing, and you can evaluate a decent amount of samples. A reason why you might want to do this as a brewer is maybe when you're thinking about moving malt suppliers, or maybe when you're thinking about what kind of malt bill do I want to use for my new red ale? You can evaluate all these suppliers next to each other and see if you get any favorable characteristics out of one supplier than another, and that might dictate where you might be putting your dollars. And you don't have to make an entire batch to get a good indication of what kind of malt aroma you're going to get. In regards to product development, it's sometimes helpful to mimic your malt bill during a hot steep. So if you're using 90% base malt, 3% black malt, and the rest some sort of like biscuit or specialty malt, you can make a tiny little hot steep using those proportions, and you can get a pretty clear indication of what the malt flavor is going to look like in that product that you're about to mash in with. So that's another kind of fun way that you can use the hot steep method to do product development. Typically, what I would like to do, especially when I was at New Belgium, was to evaluate only kind of when I needed to. So when a new crop year was coming in, or maybe when we were evaluating new suppliers, more different suppliers, or maybe when we thought that there might be a potential defect in a batch of malt, then we would steep a known control sample, so something that we know is good to go, true to target, and the sample that was in question. And then we can do some side-by-side comparisons of those 2 samples to determine whether or not the sample in question is indeed out of spec, and maybe we should reject that batch of malt before bringing it into the brewery. So those were some examples of when we would, in production or for quality control, utilize the hot steep method. To learn more about building your own sensory program, click the link below.